are not cell phones. They are models. Artists are to serve as models. When I say models, they are models not only because of looks, not only because of how long their hair is, not only how tall they are, not only as far as their complexion is concerned. They are models because they exhibit, or they are supposed or expected to exhibit, moral or ethical principles. And this is seen precisely with how we look at or how we look up to models. No? We look up to models mainly because of how they carry themselves in public. And sometimes we fail to distinguish what is real from what is real. The evidences are various. One is that artists are elected to government positions. They are also appointed to government positions, and they are expected to make a difference precisely because of the assumption of the public that because of the roles that they play in not so real life could somehow be translated into actual public life. And there are so many examples to this. No? However, they may not exhibit the same kind of competence as any other professionals would. But still, there are expectations to them, and I can cite a lot of examples. The Senator Revilla Sr., okay? He was elected as a senator, but then, of course, expectations were high, but then he did not exhibit substantial competence as the expectation would rather pin on him. Of course, the recently convicted former president, Erap Estrada, no? Of course, rose to popularity primarily because of his being an actor or an artist, and so many other artists who found their way to public office because of their having been artists or having been actors and actresses. If ever not elected formally to a government position, especially with the so many concerns today, from global warming to breastfeeding to a number of other advocacies, artists have proven to be effective in promoting all these advocacies, in initiating substantial initiatives probably, or programs that may be undertaken by non-government organizations. Of course, not so much of local artists have found their way into positions that suggest influence, no? Such as the United Nations and all other international organizations. But still, a former Bold Star, for example, has started to endorse, vegan living or vegan eating, something to that effect. No? So, to conclude, artists are also professionals. Now, all professionals, from lawyers to doctors to nurses to architects and engineers, I suppose they have a code of conduct to follow. Yeah, I should say that whatever the profession is, to a certain extent, you have to consider profit. You have to consider a certain level of salary or a certain level of income. But this should not somehow sacrifice the amount of ethical situation or the ethical model that supposedly is exhibited by public figures. Artists are not only professionals; they are also public figures. As public figures, they are emulated, and because they are emulated, they have to exhibit a persona that is worthy of emulation.
First of all, I really do not know what I am doing here because...
Ito na ako po.
Okay. Anyway, first of all, I do not know what I am doing here because I'm more used to doing quizzes on this, and honestly, I've never done any public debate, so this is the first time. So I apologize for any errors on my part regarding this debate. To respond to my former professor and colleague on the other side, and let me emphasize that former professor. First, let us redefine the discussion in the face that we are going so far by talking about, or rather, talking about our celebrities as models for our youth. If we're going to take, for example, our current crop of celebrities, I think this country will not really go anywhere. So let's limit the topic with regards to the showbiz industry, which is primarily a capitalist-driven economy. So, again, like I said, I apologize for my being so ignorant about the rules. First, let me question the speaker. Are you really sure to have our celebrities as models of our youth, as artists?
Well, not necessarily in terms of local cinema, no. But when we talk about artists, it does not only concern actors and actresses, but some of our actors and actresses may have exhibit, a capacity to be alternative public figures, like Vilma Santos, for example.
But then again, there is the problem. Are we going to impose upon our artists a general rule of ethics that everybody would abide to, or rather, just make them believe that they are human, rather than give them, put them in such a high pedestal that, silang artista, let's follow them. Rather than, just recognize them as human beings capable of errors.
It's not even a question of whether we should consider them as models, no? But we just find themselves, we just find themselves as models precisely because we see them almost every day. They make pronouncements, they play certain roles, and to a certain extent, this is probably confused or mistaken by the public to be more real than real.
Then why do we blame them for their bad behavior when in fact we ourselves are not free from such bad behaviors? Why impose upon them our vision of morality when are we really that sure that we are not immoral ourselves?
I'd like to think that blaming or blame is different from accountability. So the issue probably is accountability more than blame.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.